Here with a hello and huzzah to all of you kind enough to take a 2-hour tour around the league with our beloved body of big-brained insiders. And why waste any time with the witticisms when we have what's new? Right now, the Panthers' prospects of putting an end to all these losses took a hit with the acknowledgement of an ailing foot concerning Cam Newton and his availability for a tilt in Arizona. As we welcome in our insiders, Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero. So, Ian, we'll start with you. Cam Newton did not practice for a third straight day. What is the latest on that foot injury?
Yeah, not only did he not practice, but he also is still in a walking boot. None of this is good for Cam Newton, and it's also not a surprise. One thing that we talked about yesterday was that if Cam Newton did not practice on Wednesday, the prospects looked grim from actually being out on the field on Sunday. Not only did he not practice on Wednesday, did not practice today, and now it is very clear the expectation is that Kyle Allen will be the starter this week for the Carolina Panthers. He's had one really good game, came in and really impressed late in the season last year, an undrafted free agent, but obviously has got all of the tools, Tom, and this is someone the Panthers have confidence in. Real question now is, how much longer is Cam Newton going to be out? I know they are still gathering info on that.
The next question, too, would be if Kyle Allen plays well this week against the Cardinals, Ian, do they immediately go back to Cam Newton as soon as he's healthy, or do they ride the hot hand, at least for the time being, maybe try to get to that Week 7 bye, let Cam completely heal, and see what exactly they have in Kyle Allen? Cam signed through 2020. He's got one non-guaranteed year left beyond this one. And Kyle Allen is an interesting prospect. One-time 5-star recruit in high school, transferred from Texas A&M to Houston. He did not get drafted, but the Panthers, their offensive coaching staff, were intrigued enough by him to bring him in. People say that he played against the backups for the Saints in that Week 17 game you mentioned last year. Well, the Saints' starting defense was out there in the first half of that game. Allen threw a couple of touchdown passes, led the Panthers to a win, their only win in their past 8 games going back to last season.
Yeah, meanwhile, elsewhere, guys, Jamal Adams upset over a fine assessed from a hit on Monday night. And to further antagonize his authority, he decided to do a little redecorating on his social media feeds. Here is said authority Adam Gase on those actions. And first you see the social tweet here, the league, a damn joke. Got fined $21,000 for this hit, signed up to play football, not two-hand touch. And
nice editing.
Obviously, yes, exactly. I'm trying there. Don't give a darn about all. They're going to play his brand of football every time. So what do we make of Jamal Adams?
Well, Jamal Adams seems to be upset about a lot of things. First of all, there was the hit on Baker Mayfield, got fined $21,000. Pretty safe to say he's probably going to be appealing that one. And then there was the situation where Jamal Adams got pulled off the field late in the game against the Browns. He called it a benching. Adam Gase does not call it a benching. For Gase's mind, it was really just getting a player who might put himself at danger or maybe risk being ejected or worse, just getting him off the field, letting him calm down. Either way, between the Jamal Adams situation and the Tremaine Johnson situation, their highest priced corner, hardly playing at all, there are some things that the Jets defense now needs to at least fix or get their hands around before they go forward. This defense, more important than ever now, just considering the health of their quarterback situation.
And Ian, remember, Adam Gase trained under Nick Saban. He believes in building culture, and sometimes that comes at the expense of putting some talented players on the field. Go back 3 years ago in Miami. Gase's first season leading the Dolphins. It was virtually a carbon copy. He benched Juwan James at tackle in the 3rd game of the season, then benched Byron Maxwell going into the 4th game of the season. Gase said at the time, if we continue to make mistakes, we're going to make changes. Well, we'll see now what the plan is going forward. Certainly sounds like Jamal Adams will be on the field. Tremaine Johnson, maybe not. Both those guys were acquisitions by former general manager Mike McCagnon, who is no longer with the team. Johnson's 2020 base salary of $11 million guaranteed for injury only. Certainly does not seem right now as if Johnson has a long-term future with the Jets. The question is, what exactly is his short-term future and role? We'll find out that in the weeks to come.
Yeah, and you speak of long-term versus short-term future. The situation surrounding Jalen Ramsey and what went down on that Houston sideline. And with he and his head coach, Doug Marrone, of course, it was made public. Jalen Ramsey saying it wasn't his camp that leaked that trade request. But what is the latest in Jacksonville surrounding Jalen Ramsey and Doug Marrone?
Well, Doug Marrone mentioned that Jalen Ramsey's going to play tonight. That is the plan. And from what I'm told, the Jaguars have basically told teams interested in potentially trading for Ramsey. They want to get through the game, they want to win it, and then readdress the situation. Tomorrow is a more likely target date for a Jalen Ramsey trade. I know there are teams interested, several teams interested. This is one of the best young players in the NFL. As far as Marrone, though, I know we just showed the confrontation between Marrone and Ramsey. It doesn't seem to me like Marrone here is the issue. There are a multitude of issues that led Jalen Ramsey to seek a trade, to basically want to be somewhere else. And we're going to see it play out all tonight, because he's going to play for his current team tonight and then potentially get traded tomorrow. But of course, Tom, we know he's not allowed to play for someone else on Sunday or Monday. So only one game this week for Jalen Ramsey at the least.
What's interesting here, as you mentioned, Ian, is Jalen Ramsey is one of the best young players, certainly at his position in the NFL. Practically every team has had some kind of a conversation, whether it's with the Jaguars or internally, about whether or not Jalen Ramsey would be a fit, because this is simply a rare opportunity where a player like this becomes available. But I've spoken with many teams about this. The question and the issue continues to be the price tag, not just in terms of the Jaguars wanting multiple high draft picks to acquire Jalen Ramsey, but also the fact that this guy has made very clear, very publicly, sometimes with props, that he intends to be the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. You're talking $15, $16 million a year, maybe more than that. Usually when a player has not yet gotten that contract and is coming up on a payday, that impacts how much a team is willing to give up in terms of the draft compensation, because those high draft picks are your young, cheap workforce that allows you to keep your salary cap healthy. It's very different from the Minkah Fitzpatrick situation, where not only had he not had a high-profile conversation with the coach, but he's under team control at a low cost for the next 2 seasons and change. With Ramsey, 2020 is his 5th year option. He expects to be paid sooner than later.
No doubt. Certainly different circumstances. We appreciate it, Tom. Thank you, Ian. We'll get back with y'all in a little bit. Meanwhile, we jump to Jacksonville, where some Gardner Minshew magic nearly made winners of Marrone's men in Houston. We bring in our Tiffany Blackman from inside the stadium. Tiffany, I'm sure you're going to build on that. What is the latest down there in Jacksonville?
Well, Matt, this team, as you know, Jalen Ramsey is going to be starting tonight. Doug Marrone said that. Ian just talked about that. But Ramsey said himself that he's excited about this Thursday night game. And in a matter of hours, we should see him arrive at this stadium. We know that his teammates are excited about him playing tonight. And many of them have expressed to Ramsey this week that they want him here, like his fellow corner A.J. Boye, who told me that the two of them have a really good relationship, that they've had plenty of one-on-one conversations since that trade request. And Boye let him know that he supports him and that he has to just go with his gut. Now, we know there is talk of Ramsey not being happy with how he is used in this defense, but even defensive coordinator Todd Wash said, selfishly, I want him to be a Jag forever. So that tells you a lot about what this team is thinking right now. They've expressed that he's a tremendous player. They really like the services of having a guy like Jalen Ramsey. He is arguably, their best player on this team, but we will have to see if tonight is going to be his last game as a Jag, with Ian saying there could potentially be a trade tomorrow.
Yeah, we know inevitably those headlines tend to steal the story as opposed to the football being played on the field. But if you go back to last season and you think about that Titan versus Jaguar game that Derrick Henry really put on a show, that's got to be, I would imagine, a number one question of the Jags defense and what the Titans want to do tonight, the running game behind Derrick Henry.
Yeah, the Titans definitely want to utilize that run game, but the Jags, they've got to put an emphasis on stopping the run. In these first 2 games, in each of them, they gave up over 100 rushing yards. It's going to be challenging with Derrick Henry, as they know all too well. You talked about last year's game, that Thursday night game. It was really the catalyst for Henry and the run that he's been on, because since that night, no one in this league has put up better rushing numbers. Henry rushed for 238 yards and had, of course, that 99-yard touchdown run, which we have all heard a lot about this week. In fact, Henry said he's tired of seeing that play, and I know the Jags are tired of being asked about it. In fact, defensive coordinator Todd Wash said he didn't even show it to his guys. There was no need to. He also said that his wife reminds him of that play because it is constantly shown right here on NFL Network.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. No doubt more coming from down in Duval County a little bit later, because tonight at TIAA Bank Stadium, it's Titans, Jaguars, Mariota, Minshew, a divisional duel in Duval County. Meanwhile, with Big Ben out, Pittsburgh's hopes are pinned on a poke out of Oklahoma State. Mason Rudolph relegated to right the Steelers ship in San Francisco. Let's bring back Tom Pelissero with the latest from Western Pennsylvania, where there is some serious buzz on Rudolph after acquitting himself all right against Seattle on Sunday. Tom?
And Matt, I've talked to coaches and executives who watched that tape on Mason Rudolph against the Seahawks in relief of Ben Roethlisberger last week. They say he was calm, decisive, accurate, same stuff that showed up for Rudolph back in the preseason. When you talk to his teammates, as I did after that game against Seattle last week, they say the same thing. The game was clearly not too big for him. As guard Ramon Foster told me, we're just working on some little things with him, like if I'm pulling around, he's got to get out of the way, the timing of some of those plays. Also, he is very loud in the huddle. Foster said we just got to calm him down a little bit. Hard to blame the guy, though, for being excited. He now has a 14-game audition to potentially be Pittsburgh's quarterback of the future. Not an easy task out of the gate against the San Francisco defense that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but has played really well overall so far this season. They're top 10 in points allowed. They're top 10 in yards allowed, and that's despite their backups last week in a blowout over the Bengals, giving up a 66-yard touchdown late in that game. A lot of credit to defensive coordinator Robert Saleh for the job he's done. They put a lot of investment in terms of that front seven and the pass rush, but also the corners are playing pretty well right now. Richard Sherman, another year removed from that Achilles, playing really well so far, and Ahkello Witherspoon on the other side also stepping up. So no easy task right out of the gate here for Rudolph.
You've been doing this for a while, Tom. Is that the first time you've ever heard someone say he's too loud in the huddle?
You would like to think at least he's being assertive, right? That's worse than, hey, you're whispering the play calls, guys.
Exactly.
You know, you want the confidence there, but there's just some things that are a little bit different when you go to the young backup.
I'm not yelling, you're yelling. All right, thank you, Tom. NFL Network programming schedule for Thursday, because we have TNF tonight. You see, First Look at 3 p.m. Eastern, followed by Fantasy Live at 5. We'll get you your game day kickoff at 6, and then we get it going. Thursday Night Football, Titans versus Jaguars, 8 p.m. And after the game, of course, you always get your TNF postgame and NFL Total Access. Up next, as the Dolphins head to Dallas, a delay on the Dak deal will present Prescott with a premium rate of return. But will this be the week he finally gets to